welcome Los Angeles Mayor Garcetti to launch the evening with opening remarks followed by his presentation of Salwa Bughaighis. I present to you the mayor of our beloved city, Eric Garcetti.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ani. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you have stitched together. Thank you for this fabric that we see. Thank you, Maz, for a great performance. I noticed when you said, and all the husbands can clap, not one of them did for Wifesis, because we're very well-behaved husbands and trained. But thank you to everybody who is here and everybody who will be performing or speaking tonight, but especially to Ensaf Haidar. I want to welcome you to the City of Angels and welcome you for the courage and the bravery that you and your husband have shown and that resides in our hearts also for you. I also want to thank my dear friend, another mayor who is here with us, Mayor Pro Tem right now, but we'll just shorten that to Mayor. The Artesia Mayor Pro Tem and a dear friend of mine, Ali Sajjad Taj, who is here. I want to thank you for joining us. And I'm honored to be here with all of you who represent a snapshot of this city, which is the most diverse collection of human beings ever put in one city, not just on the earth today, but in human history. A place where over 200 languages are spoken, a place where over 115 countries of origin exist for the population, a place where 39 countries find their largest population outside their home country here. I think there's a reason for that. I think it's not just a coincidence, and there's a responsibility that comes with it, as well as something beautiful that is born in it, that radiates out what is possible. A place where I remember when, as city council president, before I was mayor, a meeting in which the outgoing Israeli consul general and his counterpart, the Egyptian consul general, sat in the front row of the city council chambers. And the Israeli consul general's wife was an Egyptologist, and they had become friends in a way that if they were probably living in the Middle East, they couldn't have. But here in Los Angeles, the home of the Korean short rib taco, this is a place where improbable collisions happen between cultures, between peoples, and what they produce is beautiful. And right now, this world is in need of that sort of beauty. The motto of Muslims for Progressive Values is straightforward: be yourself, be Muslim. To be Muslim is to embrace the ideals of traditional Quranic ideals of human dignity, egalitarianism, compassion, and social justice. But these values could also be said about this city, and encompasses what it means to be an Angelino. Los Angeles has always called out to the people of the world and said, come here. The pobladores, or settlers in English, who came here were 42 individuals who traced their own ancestry back to all the continents of the world. No city that's ever grown to a city of this size started with that diversity, let alone continued it. We've always said here, bring your ideals, share your traditions, honor your history, worship God however you want, love whomever you want, but above all, be part of our family of angels, no matter who you are, where you come from, or what you believe. Those ideals are why it is so fortunate for each one of us to be called an Angelino. With this privilege, as I mentioned, it comes a responsibility, not just to enjoy those freedoms and the beauty that comes from it, but to speak loudly and frequently when those ideals are challenged, whether it's next door, whether it's an ocean away, whether it's in our country, or whether it's in a distant land, to work together to not just speak out, but to do the work to make sure that the lives of our brothers and sisters are realized. This is who we are. This is what we work for. It's how we move forward with the vital work of the brave men and women whose stories you'll hear this evening. And I'm pleased to share one of them now. My name is Salwa Bughaighis. I'm a lawyer and a human rights activist from Libya. I grew up in Benghazi in a prominent family that encouraged its daughters and sons to get an education and to make an impact with their lives. My childhood and most of my adult life was spent in Libya under an oppressive regime led by the dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Growing up, my family never censored our personal beliefs, and as a result, my siblings and I adopted very diverse positions. Two of us believed in a strict interpretation of Islam. while my sister Iman and I believed in dialogue and democratic processes. In 2011, a revolution began to brew in my home country of Libya. During this time, I was very active in the uprising, day and night. I worked closely with my sister Iman, who was a spokesperson for the movement. But one thing you must understand, that as Libyans, and more importantly as Libyan women, we had never participated before in protests. They were taboo. The revolution, though, made us proud to be there on the front line, and men were forced to accept us. Ultimately, it was Iman's group that was responsible for Gaddafi's ouster. And when he was finally defeated, there was a sense of relief that overcame the nation. But I understood that it was just the beginning of the most important work that we could ever undertake. Because even though we stood side by side with men to defeat the face of tyranny, there were already voices shouting that it is time for the women to go home. It was then that I founded the National Transitional Council, or the NTC, and offered my counsel as an advisor and a voice for democratic reform in the new Libya. My sister and I worked hard to keep the original idealism of the uprising and to keep women present in the political realm. People developed a deep respect for me and my commitment to women's inclusion. They were attracted to my air of confidence. As I walked down the street without a veil, people would turn their heads and admire my sense of purpose. But there were serious barriers to our work, too. Factions were developing. Islamism was taking root. The pressure was piling on, and as a leader, I had to maintain my composure. Reconstruction would not wait for us to come to grips with our stark realities. For a brief moment, I broke from my usual composure, and I allowed myself to cry as I shared my crushing burden with my dear friend, Peter Buchart of Human Rights Watch. I told him we never even dreamed that our uprising would succeed so quickly. I told him, and now we have to start from scratch. Gaddafi destroyed all of our institutions and only left fear to rule. Please tell the world to be patient with us. After working with the NTC for 3 months, I resigned in protest of the lack of women in government. I continued to work on behalf of women's inclusion. But as time went on, my family received numerous death threats. When my son was threatened by gunmen on the streets of Benghazi, we left Libya briefly to let the heat die down. I later returned to run in the parliamentary elections that would be held in June of 2014. I was killed on June 25th, 2014, just after posting photos of myself casting my vote on Facebook. I was in my living room when armed and masked men broke into my home, shot me in the head, and stabbed me in the chest. I was left bleeding on the floor in front of my 3 young children, and the attackers then abducted my husband, who currently is still missing. My killers have never been identified or brought to justice. Pray for me, pray for my country, and pray for peace in this world. And that is my story. I am Salwa Bughaighis.